Hello, Honkai Star Rail fans. I hope you've been enjoying Amphoris's story so far, and more importantly, have saved enough for Finon. The newest trailer showed off his amazing animations. Also, in that trailer, they also showed off more about the Fate collab. I hope you have enough Stellar Jades in stock. The Fate collab is fast approaching, with the release date being July 11th. I'm sure there's more of you Honkai Star Rail fans that haven't played Fate Stay Night. You're running out of time to get all of the Fate lore you need. Thankfully, I decided to make this video to help you out. In this video, I'll explain Saber's backstory and give you all of the information you need to know before the Fate collab begins. I'd appreciate it if you'd like the video and subscribe to my channel, as I'll be making more videos like this for the Fate collab. Prologue, explaining the premise of Fate Stay Night and the route structure. Fate Stay Night was released on January 30th, 2004 by Type Moon, and it's a visual novel that is written in a 3-route structure. The 3-route structure covers the same start of the story. The different choices Shiro makes changes the events in each route drastically. The premise is still the same, of the reader stepping into the shoes of Shiro Emiya as you follow his journey in Fuki City, Japan. His regular, peaceful life changes as he is thrust into a battle royale story with 6 other humans. All 7 of them become masters and are entered into the Holy Grail War in order to make their wish come true with the Holy Grail. The 3 different routes in Fate Stay Night are the Fate route, the Unlimited Blade Works route, and the Heaven's Feel route. All 3 of these routes contain the same premise of Shiro Emiya trying to continue his school life as he tries to survive against the other masters until he's the last one that remains. His daily life changes once he's attacked by a Lancer, which forces him to retreat home and accidentally summon Saber. The other 6 masters also summon these servants, which have different class names that are also heroic figures from the past. These 7 classes are Archer, Saber, Lancer, Rider, Caster, Assassin, and Berserker. These heroic figures from the past are called servants during Holy Grail Wars as they serve their masters. Heroic spirits have to protect their masters to stay alive in the present. Another reason is that if they win the Holy Grail War, they can also make any wish that they desire come true. Shiro goes through these different routes in sequential order. That order is the Fate route, the Unlimited Blade Works route, and the Heaven's Feel route. These routes start the same, but the different choices that Shiro makes changes the story. These different routes cover different aspects of the story and characters, as the Fate route is focused on Saber and her relationship to Shiro. Now that I've explained the premise and the route structure, I can delve deeper into Saber's tragic story in the Fate route. Act 1. The start of the Night of Fate and the story of Saber. I'll start from the accidental summoning of Saber, as that's where her story begins. Saber faces off against Lancer and protects Shiro from him as she forces him away from Shiro's home. She can't rest easy after this fight, as she also senses that Archer is invading his home. She quickly deals Archer a devastating blow and is about to finish him off until Rin uses a command spell to force him to barely escape the finishing blow. Command spells are 3 different marks that are placed on each master's hand that look like a tattoo of 3 different red symbols. These spells can be used to command a servant to do whatever a master wants with haste. It's a risky move to use all 3, as once you do, you lose control of your servant. Rin has already used 1 command spell, so using 2 this early in the war is dangerous. Once Archer retreats, Rin tries to use magic to protect herself, but it's a futile effort as Saber is about to kill her. But before she does, Shiro yells at her to stop. This choice starts the early rift between Saber and Shiro, as she doesn't understand why he would stop her and spare an enemy master, as her goal is to win the Holy Grail War no matter what. Shiro, on the other hand, would never let someone he knows die right in front of him. Anyways, after Shiro spares Rin, they become fast friends and decide to visit the local church to confirm Shiro's desire to enter the war. They walk to the church at night to let the overseer, Hirei Koromine, know that they have entered the war. After Shiro confirms his desire to compete in the war, is his resolve truly tested when he faces off against another master, Ilyasfeel von Einsburn, and her servant Berserker. The battle doesn't go well, as Berserker's strength proves to be a challenge to Saber. The monstrous Berserker lands an especially devastating blow on Saber, which causes her to bleed. Shiro snaps, seeing this as he is someone who doesn't want to see others hurt right in front of him. He has a severe case of survivor's guilt due to being the sole survivor of a disastrous fire in Fuyuki. He was unable to save anyone at an early age, which causes him to blame himself for his weakness. He vows to never have anyone die right in front of him again. His trauma flares up again, seeing Saber bleeding right in front of him, as she's powerless to stop Berserker. The fight concludes as you'd expect, as Shiro sacrifices himself as he runs in front of Saber and pushes her away as he's crushed by Berserker instead. You'd expect this to be the end of Shiro's story, but through some unknown means, Shiro was able to survive and even recover from this fatal blow. Ilya retreats as she deems the battle over, and Shiro and Saber head home with Rin after the battle. They lick their wounds and try to have less hectic days than tonight. Their wish is granted as they spend the next several days recovering from the fight, and Shiro decides to get stronger, so he asks Saber to train him. Saber accepts his plan as they get closer as they bond over their training in the dojo, and they go on patrols at night. They discover that the Ryudo Temple is being protected by a servant. Once they return home, they argue as Saber suggests that they recklessly ambush the temple. Shiro objects to this plan as he worries that Saber doesn't value her own well-being. They can't agree to a compromise as they separate for the night, but as Shiro sleeps, Saber leaves his home and attacks the temple herself. This is a risky move that Saber makes as she disobeys her master and attacks the strongly fortified temple. This proves to be a mistake as it has a strong magical field known as a bounded field that is harmful to any magical beings that attack it, like servants. The negative effect it has on Saber and her battle with Assassin proves to be difficult, as she is overwhelmed by his surprising skills as a Japanese swordsman. It looks like this may be the end for her until she's rescued by Shiro, as he comes running towards her due to the magical bond they both share. Assassin lets them both return home. The story continues with Shiro training and getting closer to Saber as he still goes to school. While going to school, he eventually realizes that Shinji, his friend, is another master in this war. He has his servant, Ryder, use a bounded field called the Blood Fort Andromeda to trap many innocent students inside a dangerous magical prison that absorbs their energy. Shiro was outraged by this horrible act, and he gets even madder once he sees Shinji mocking and kicking Taiga Fujimura, who is Shiro's guardian and someone he loves as an older sister. Seeing Shinji endanger someone he cares about changes him to being someone who would be willing to kill another person to protect others. He is outraged by this horrible act that Shinji did. It's like a flip was switched in his mind as he runs at Shinji. His sprint is stopped by Shinji's magic. Normally this attack would have killed Shiro, but due to training at the dojo with Saber, Shiro was able to easily dodge these black magic waves rushing to his feet, which shocked Shinji. Seeing that Shiro was an actual threat, he calls for Ryder, who fights Shiro in his place. The fight doesn't go well for Shiro, as no matter how much training he does, he still can't overpower a servant like Ryder, as he's beaten so badly that he's thrown out of the school window. It seems like certain death for Shiro, as it seems like his fate to fall from such a tall height. That would be the case if he didn't use his second command seal to summon Saber to save him from falling to his death. This moment is what I believe changes the fate route and kicks it into overdrive as it gets more intense from here on out. They work together as a team as they fight together this time. Saber goes after Ryder while Shiro fights Shinji once again. The black magic waves aren't strong enough to stop Shiro as he finally reaches Shinji and puts his hand around his neck. He threatens Shinji to stop the bounded field or else he'll kill him. He thinks Shiro is bluffing, but he's wrong as he feels his hand around his neck tighten as Shiro says, "Okay, by Shinji, I tighten my grip. There's no hesitation, just a little sympathy. It's because Shinji wasn't taught the basic rules of Magi that there's no problem with killing other Magi. In this one moment, we're seeing Shiro show an emotionless aspect of himself as someone who can kill others like Saber is to accomplish what he has to. As the threat to Shinji is shown to be real, he quickly dispels the bounded field. Once it's dispelled, it looks like Shinji is about to be defeated. Seeing no other option for escape, Ryder stabs her neck as the blood pools up to reveal a giant eyeball that blasts a shining white light beam, which wrecks the school and allows time for Shinji and Ryder to escape. It's now Saber and Shiro's duty to defeat him after involving innocent people in the war. The duo searches all of Yuki to find Shinji, as it doesn't seem like they'll find him at this rate. Saber notices that Shiro is breathing raggedly, and she's just resting in a nearby park. Shiro wakes up from his nap as he realizes Saber has left his side once again. So he follows her magical energy and he feels Saber's presence on top of the large building on the rooftop. He climbs the many stairs below as he gets closer and closer to reuniting with Saber once again. He slams the door open as he stares at a sight that he'll never forget in his life. He sees Ryder flying in the air with her Pegasus mount as she's ready to descend from the heavens back down to the mortal realm to crash into the tower made by human hands. She may have come from the heavens, but atop the tower, her light is nothing compared to the golden glow of the king. Saber has been hiding her sword in a sheath of air this whole time, as she's wanted to protect her true identity for so long. But now, in this moment, she wants to reveal her true self to the world atop the tower for all to see. She reveals the glory that made her one of the most famous kings of all time. Her golden sword is finally revealed. As he's stunned by the sight, she gathers all of humanity's beliefs to her sword as she meets the divine beast in the skies, as the gods would once again smite humanity's arrogance to dare challenge the heavens themselves. But on this night, fate changes as the golden light outshines the heavens themselves. Excalibur outshines the divine magic of the gods as Ryder is defeated by humanity's light as the Greek figure from history, Medusa, exits the stage. This all but means doom for Shinji as he retreats again. He isn't so lucky this time as he's crushed to death by Berserker once he tries to flee the building. With his death, the battle is over as many new important pieces of information were revealed this night. Saber is King Arthur as she has donned the mask of a man to become the king of Camelot. Her being King Arthur and revealing her real identity to Shiro opens the floodgates of her past. After this moment is where Saber's backstory is revealed. So let's continue to the second act of this story. Act 2. Saber's tragic past is revealed. After Saber unleashed Excalibur, he is shown Saber's memories as a king. This is due to the servant and master bond between them, as Shiro is given memories of Saber as a king in his sleep. In this memory, we see Saber's lonely rule as a king. She has to hide her identity in order to become the stoic king that is able to lead a country. She hides her humanity from everyone as he learns more of her past and sees her many battles and struggles, as it seems she's sacrificing herself for her country and losing more of her humanity. This aspect of herself is similar to Shiro's own self-sacrificial nature, as more of their parallels are revealed. She wasn't always the cold king, as in a later memory, we see Saber's early childhood memories of living her life as a normal girl. These peaceful moments would change as Saber is confronted with the choice that would change her life forever. She sees the sword in the stone, which many had tried to pull, but were unsuccessful. On a whim, she steps close to the sword, as an older mage tells her that she should stop and think this through before she grabs that sword. He tells her she should stop, as she will no longer be human once she takes hold of that sword. He can already see her future as the mage Merlin, as he tells her that she will die a miserable death being hated by the people that she once protected. Despite those foreboding words of the grim future that awaits her, she says that she can still see many people smiling, and she does not believe that it will be a mistake to protect the people around her as the king. Both Saber and Shiro are self-sacrificial people who discard their own humanity in order to protect the people around them. He sees the small girl pull the sword from the stone as the prophecy that Merlin foretold would come true. As Shiro sees Artoria's end, he sees her final battle at Camlin and sees her surrounded by the dead bodies of her former knights. This happened due to the perfect, emotionless king not being understood by anyone. She fought like a machine to protect the people, but the people could never relate to such a robotic king. She truly was always alone in all of her life as the robotic king. The people around her became restless over her being an inhuman king that never aged due to the effects of Excalibur that made her body ageless. She was an unnatural girl that lived a lonely life to protect others and was never understood by anyone until she met Shiro, as he is the only one who has seen her story and understands her more than anyone. After Shiro sees these memories, the days go on as Shiro continues his training with Saber, as she is also given memories of Shiro's own life. Seeing his tragic past makes her finally understand Shiro and just how similar they truly are. The story continues as Saber reveals her wish for the Holy Grail. That wish is to go back to the past and never pull the sword from the stone, as she believes that choice led to the fall of Camelot. This reveal shocks Shiro, as she's telling him that she believes all of her life was a mistake and the pain and suffering she went through alone was for nothing. This choice would erase Saber from history, as she would never become King Arthur. She also reveals that she hasn't become a proper servant yet, as she's stuck in an eternal loop of being summoned to countless Grail Wars to fulfill the contract that she made with the world. That deal was that she would give up her afterlife and become a heroic spirit that will eternally serve the world in exchange for letting her wish upon the Grail to let someone else pull the sword from the stone in order to save Camelot. Shiro is outraged at how little she thinks of herself and that she isn't proud at all of the life she's led. This lack of self-worth is also another parallel between them, as Shiro has little value in himself, as he would willingly give up his life in a futile effort to save Saber early in the story against Berserker. They both argue that Shiro can't change her mind, as she's been dead set on doing this for ages. With her choice set, the days continue on until one day, Shiro is kidnapped by Ilya to her castle in the Ironsburn Forest. He has been meeting Ilya in the city, and one day she had decided to take him for herself, as she asked him to become her puppet. Shiro refuses her proposal to give up on the war and become her doll. Meanwhile, Saber, Rin, and Archer rush to save Shiro as they enter the Ironsburn Forest and invade the castle that he's being held captive in. They rescue him, but just as they're about to leave, Ilya appears to confront them. Archer tells the rest of them to retreat, as he has a desperate battle against Berserker. As the rest of the group follows Archer's wish, they retreat to a ruin in the vast Ironsburn Forest. In this intimate moment of Shiro applying mana to Saber, he sees deep inside her as he realizes that she trusts and cares for him so much. After he supplies her with mana for the battle ahead, it's time for round 2 against Berserker. This battle is as brutal as the first battle, as they clash, with Rin having to help Saber. The battle turns ugly as Berserker grabs hold of Tosaka after she blasted him with her gem magic. Saber tries to use Excalibur to save her, but Shiro stops her as she is low on mana and would die if she uses it. So for Shiro to use his magic, which can copy and trace any sword he sees and replicate it with his projection magic. He can project the long-lost sword of Caliburn, which is the sword that he saw Saber pull from the stone in his dreams. Shiro brings it back to reality as he uses the history of the sword in his fight against Berserker. With Shiro and Saber working together, they're able to defeat Berserker by using Caliburn's power. They have Ilya give up on the war and join their side, as Shiro chooses to protect her despite her kidnapping him earlier. This uneasy truce between them eventually dies down as they rest and recover from the battle. This calm before the storm changes as Shiro's home is invaded by Castor. Her invasion is soon replaced by another one, as a secret last servant is revealed, which is a shock to Saber as she sees Gilgamesh, the previous archer from the last Holy Grail War 10 years ago. He leaves her with foreboding words by telling her that he wants Saber to join his side as his wife. He made the same proposal in the last war, which Saber rejected 10 years ago. A crazy night of reveals ends with many questions that Shiro wants answers to, as he goes to the church the next morning to talk to Kirei about Gilgamesh. and what he should do about Saber's situation. Kira explains that he must have been sustained by the world, by his master, and that Shiro can have Saber live with him if he wishes on the Grail, to incarnate Saber in order to live with her in the present. After the war is over, he is now set on saving her and having her live as a normal girl with him, which she wasn't able to do in the past. The first part of his new plan is as absurd as it sounds, as he wishes to take Saber out on a date and experience the modern world that she can live with him after the war is over, if she agrees to give up on her wish. The date goes as awkward as expected, as Shiro tries his best to make her happy. Walk back home on the bridge as Shiro laments the failed date, but Saber surprises him by telling him that she enjoyed the date. He's happy to hear that, and even tells Saber that they can have many dates like this in the future if she gives up her wish on the Grail. This causes her to frown, as she says that she won't change her mind. This angers him, as they begin to argue, as he tells her that she doesn't have to sacrifice herself for people that she doesn't know once again. The irony of Shiro telling her this is not lost on her. She tells him that he has no right to tell her that, given how quick he is to sacrifice himself for people he doesn't know. Argument escalates as they both won't back down, until Shiro pushes his desire to live with Saber too far. Shiro sees her in her most vulnerable state, and he can't take seeing her, so shocked at his words, as he runs away from the bridge to get away from the mistake he made. He runs back home and wallows in his misery for hours, contemplating what to do next, as he quickly passes out. He wakes up hours later as he runs back to the bridge to apologize to her. To his surprise, she's still waiting on the bridge, frozen like a statue. He apologizes to her as they quickly make up and plan to return home, but the fight they had now is nothing compared to the fight they're about to have, as Gilgamesh ambushes them. They start the fight, but it's clear that she's no match for him, as she's blasted by his noble phantasm, Ea. Even the might of Excalibur pales in comparison to it, as she's defeated and left bleeding on the pavement. Seeing Saber bleeding again like this flares Shiro to action, but Saber stops him in his tracks with her pitiful pleas to retreat. Shiro rejects her pleas and instead confesses his love to her. He tells her that he's never felt this way about anyone before, as her otherworldly beauty had him fall for her the night that he summoned her. Shiro prepares to protect Saber against an opponent he has no chance of defeating. This proves to be right, as the fight starts poorly as Gilgamesh shoots famous swords from his treasury that he's collected all of his life, which is called the Gate of Babylon. He quickly overwhelms Shiro as he's skewered and cut in many places as he falls to the ground from all the blood he's lost. It seems that all hope is lost as they're both defeated. Even so, Shiro still rises to his feet somehow, as he can't let anyone, especially the sleazy bastard, harm Saber. He projects a mysterious object as Gil uses Ea once again. Saber recognizes it as her sheath and uses his defensive powers to reflect Ea back at Gil. This shocks Gil as his seemingly impenetrable armor is damaged. He retreats from the fight as the battle is over. Shiro was able to protect Saber, as it looks like he'll fall to the floor from all the blood he's lost. But before he falls, he's enveloped in a warm embrace. He can't believe his eyes as he sees Saber holding him close to her, supporting him as she's always done during this war as his partner. She's always been his pillar of support, as she's literally right now supporting his bloody body from falling. This beautiful moment is capped off by Saber saying that Shiro was her sheath this whole time. Those words both work literally and figuratively, as Shiro has always protected her during the war, as Shiro has always protected her as her sheath. He's also literally her sheath, as he was implanted with her sheath Avalon. Kiritsugu, his adopted father, implanted Shiro with Avalon to keep him alive during the night of the fire. So, the accidental summoning wasn't an accident at all, as Saber was always going to be the servant that he summoned, as they've been connected for years now. Him being implanted with the sheath also explains his durability during the war. It gives him a powerful healing factor, which has saved his life many times. The night Andrew's Shiro come comforting Saber as he embraces her and kisses her as he proclaims his love to her once again in this tender moment. Saber can't resist it as they spend the night together. This is the only night that she can act like a normal girl, and she indulges in her love for Shiro. This moment of peace doesn't last long as Shiro goes back to the church early in the morning for advice on how to defeat Gilgamesh. He feels a chill that is different somehow, as the pristine house of the Lord feels wrong, as he descends towards the basement as if he's descending towards hell. It can best be described as Shiro's own personal hell, as he relives the night of the fire all over again. He sees decaying bodies all around him in coffins as they remind him of the corpses that surrounded him during the night of the fire. The most horrifying aspect of this is that they aren't corpses. No, these decaying corpses are still breathing somehow, and it feels like they're talking to Shiro and condemning him. He feels their hollow eyes on him, jealous that he's still able to live like a human and escape this prison in the church basement. Shiro recognizes these charred bodies as the same people who were in the night of the fire years ago. It makes sense to him, as these are survivors of the fire who were orphans that were meant to be taken care of by the church. Shiro had always found it odd that none of the survivors from the fire ever walked around the city of Fuyuki. He had hoped to meet them one day, but that will never happen, as all the survivors of the fire have been used as mana batteries to sustain Gilgamesh in this world. Kirei explains this as he descends to hell, as he reveals that he's the last master of the Holy Grail War. Shiro gets into a rage and tries to punch Kirei for the atrocities he's committed, yet he feels a familiar spear stab him in the heart once again. As he turns around to see Lancer again, Kirei reveals that he's the master of Lancer, and he plans to keep him alive as he waits for Saber to come to the church. His plan works as Saber rushes with Godspeed to the House of God, as she senses that Shiro's life is in danger after Lancer's attack. Shiro, meanwhile, struggles with his own secret desire at the back of his mind that comes to the forefront, being surrounded by the people he wasn't able to save. He has similar doubts to Saber of contemplating going back to the past to stop the Fuyuki fire from ever happening. That choice would also change Shiro fundamentally from who he is. Like with Saber, he ultimately realizes that he can't change the past, and that he has to keep moving forward towards the future. As this mental battle with himself ends, a new battle begins with Saber, as she's presented with a choice by Kirei. One choice she's given is to wish on the Grail and fulfill her wish. This choice should be easy, as she struggled for a long time to finally grasp the Grail and make her desire come true. This should be an easy choice, but in order to have it come true, she has to kill Shiro. She isn't able to swing her sword down on him, as she cares about him more than anyone. With this choice to reject the Grail, she's also able to finally accept Shiro's words and move on from the past, as she can't change it. As it's been set in stone, she rejects Kirei's offer and rescues Shiro from Lancer's grasp. Kirei sees where things are headed as he retreats and summons Gilgamesh to kill them all. Saber and Shiro are getting ready for another battle with the Golden Servant before they're both surprised by Lancer's offer to fight Gilgamesh in their stead. They both accept his offer as they escape the basement and confirm that Saber is giving up on her wish to undo the past. Her goal now is to destroy the Grail, which means accepting her death once and for all. Shiro still wants to live with her, but he begrudgingly accepts her wish as it's a noble one that is befitting of her. They rush home as they worry that Kirei may go after Ilya, who is the vessel for the Holy Grail. Their fears are correct as they enter Shiro's home and see a battered and bloody Rin greet them as she slumped in the hallway. It's clear that Kirei ambushed her and kidnapped Ilya after defeating her. They patch her up as she'll live despite how serious her injuries look. Rin gives Shiro the Azov sword to use against Kirei, as Rin won't be able to use it herself. They rest and recover as it's their last night together, as they'll leave the Emiya house for the last time, as they have one last battle to win. For that, they come up with a plan as Shiro projects Avalon and gives it back to Saber. He says the iconic meme line in this scene, and he decides to give Avalon to her for this fight in order to get the upper hand against Gilgamesh. With their strategy set, they leave the house and walk towards the final stage of the story, which is the Ryudo Temple. They walk to the end of their time together, as this is the last battle. They've grown so much closer since the first time they met, as they walk in a comfortable silence in order to savor their last moments in the war together. Shiro walks slowly as he hesitates, as he has stray thoughts of abandoning the war and living the rest of his life with Saber. He realizes that Saber would never accept that choice, as she's finally atoning for her mistake and rejecting the Grail, as she wishes to close the curtains on her long life once and for all. Shiro loves her as a girl, but he also loves the honorable knight that she is, and he wouldn't dare tarnish her noble last wish to finally accept her death after rejecting it for so long. So, with hesitant steps, he walks together with Saber as they climb the long steps to reach their ending together. The final battle begins once they reach the summit, as they both have two separate fights to face, as Shiro fights Kirei and Saber faces off against Archer one last time. The battle between them both begins as they are both overwhelmed by their enemy's powers. It's hard for Shiro to get close to Kirei as he uses black mud from the Grail from a distance. It's also hard for Saber to get close to Archer as he shoots swords from his Gate of Babylon. The battle continues as it seems that they're both close to being defeated, with the Holy Grail mud enveloping Shiro as Gilgamesh envelops Saber with the harsh winds of Ea. It seems like all hope is lost until Shiro projects Avalon and fully uses its power. Avalon, the ever-distant utopia, shines a bright golden light that overwhelms the darkness. The golden light breaks Shiro from his dark prison as she rushes towards Kirei with renewed vigor. Even Gilgamesh's Ea has no chance against the sheath made by the fairies. That is the ultimate defense, as it repels Ea's harsh winds. Saber runs headfirst against the winds as Shiro runs at the same time against Kirei. They both run towards their ending, with Saber jumping in the air and using Excalibur as she slashes a fatal blow to Gilgamesh. At the same time, Shiro pulls out the Azov sword as he stabs Kirei with it, as he deals a fatal blow against him. He laughs at the irony of his death as he used the same sword to kill Rin's dad in the Fourth Holy Grail War. He falls to the black mud as he's swallowed by the Grail that he's desired so badly. Gilgamesh laments that some things are beautiful because they cannot be obtained as he disappears from the world. The war is finally over as the Grail appears in front of them. It's a bittersweet moment for them both as Saber is rejecting the opportunity to change her past. Shiro is rejecting the opportunity for the future with Saber, but the both of them have a duty to fulfill as they promise to end the war once and for all. With a heavy heart, Shiro uses the final command seal to have Saber destroy the Holy Grail with Excalibur as they close the curtains on the war. Dawn is approaching as the golden light of the Holy Sword clears the darkening skies as a new bright future is ahead for the both of them. Saber views the sky that is now bathed in the golden light as she is content with the choice that she made, as she's finally able to accept her end. She's fought long enough and a proper rest is appropriate for a king that gave everything to her people. She has one last duty to fulfill, however, as she turns towards Shiro as she confesses her love for him. As soon as he hears those words, she disappears from the world as the golden light engulfs her. He holds onto her confession for the rest of his life. He's still crestfallen that he had to say goodbye to Saber, but he's content that she finally met her end by her own terms. He carries Ilya back home as the battle is over and time passes peacefully for him. He returns to his normal life as he continues his peaceful life. It almost seems like the war didn't exist in the first place, but Shiro will always remember the short time he spent with the girl that he loved. He'll carry those memories of her for the rest of his life as he continues to follow his ideal. As Shiro strives towards the future, Saber returns to the past. Since she rejected the Grail, she was sent back to her past in the hills of Camelon in her own time, with many wounds, as she knows this is the end of her life. Her body is carried by Bedivere, her most loyal knight, as he rests her body by a tree as her final resting place. He has one last duty to fulfill as she tells him to return Excalibur to his rightful place, to the Lady of the Lake. He's conflicted over this as he knows it'll be the end of his king, but even so, he still fulfills his duty. Knowing that her loyal knight has fulfilled her last duty, she relaxes by the tree. For the first time in her life as the king, her mask slips off as she's able to show her emotions she's been hiding for so long. She acts like a girl in love as she closes her eyes and dreams about her memories of Shiro. In her final moments, she wishes to continue the dream with Shiro, as if wishing upon the stars. She closes her eyes in peace for the first time in her life, as the king's reign is finally over. Thus ends the story of Saber in the Fate route. This isn't the end of Saber's story in Fate, but the other two routes don't get nearly as many important moments for Saber besides the Heaven's Feel route. I'll go over these moments right now as I conclude Saber's story in Fate Stay Night. Act 3. Saber's role in the Unlimited Blade Works and Heaven's Feel routes. I'd say the UBW version of Saber, she acts the most like a servant. She doesn't fall in love with Shiro in this route, as he loves Rin instead. There are some events here, like her role as Shiro's master being stolen by Caster, her noble phantasm, Rule Breaker, nullifies any magic, including the magic contract between them. I'll go more into detail about the UBW route in the next video about Archer's backstory, so just know that in this route, Saber is taken hostage by Caster and hurts Shiro due to Caster's command. Saber isn't Caster's servant for the whole route, as she's eventually freed by Shiro and Rin, and even becomes Rin's servant. She also finds her own salvation throughout the route, as she becomes a witness to Shiro and Archer's own fight, as it's a similar situation to her own dilemma of ending her own existence. With Archer wanting to end his own existence, Saber also sees what she could have been if she fulfilled her wish to the Grail, as Archer is a servant that gave up his afterlife to be a servant to the world, which could have happened to Saber if she completed her contract with the world. Seeing this, Saber realizes that wallowing in your own past and trying to change it is a mistake. Saber tells Shiro that she's found her answer after witnessing their battle, so she also rejects the Grail here and destroys it with Excalibur. It's the same outcome, but without the romance aspect of her story. The next route starts off like the other two, as she forms a bond with Shiro as his servant. It seems just like another repeat of the UBW route until everything goes wrong for her. The Heaven's Feel route is the worst ending for Saber, as she's tainted by the corrupt Holy Grail and the Shadow, which is a monster that comes from the tainted Holy Grail. This turns her into Saber Alter, as she becomes an enemy to Shiro for the rest of the story. There is one aspect of this route that's important for her character, and it wraps up a thread that was started all the way back in the Fate route. Later on in the route, in an optional ending, Shiro is able to confront Saber Alter by himself. This calls back to their many training sessions in the dojo, as is the culmination of all their fights together. This fight, which is known as a Spark Linear High ending, even has another callback to the Fate route in an unexpected way. You have the option to ask Saber to teach you a secret technique to best defeat servants, which is treated as a joke question in a list of other questions. What seems as a one-off joke is actually foreshadowing to this fight, as Shiro, with the memories of Archer's arm, is able to use a secret technique that Archer developed all of his life, which is called Triple Crane Wing. It's a move that is able to defeat servants like Saber Alter, though the battle ends in a draw as the move and the mana it took destroys Shiro's brain. This bleak ending isn't too dissimilar to Saber's own ending in the Heaven's Feel route, as in the actual ending, Shiro defeats Saber with the help of Rider. He has to be the one to kill Saber, however, as he straddles her and pushes the blade down. It's surprising how dark this ending is for Saber after the bright ending that she had in the Fate route, as her story ends in darkness in Fate Stay Night. That would be the case if there wasn't one final ending to her story. Epilogue, the last episode. This last ending was added in the Real to Newer version of the game, and I'm so happy that it was added, as it's a bright ending that Saber deserves after a long and painful life. This ending is the continuation of the dream that Saber wanted in the Fate route, as it picks up where the Fate route ended. It briefly summarizes what happened to Shiro after the route, as he follows his ideal by protecting others across the world, as he spends his life traveling to different places, helping those around him. It's a lonely life like that of a machine, but he isn't as lonely as he thinks he is, as Saber observes his life in the afterlife. After the Fate route, Saber died peacefully in her own time and was sent to Avalon to live the rest of her life. However, this peace isn't what she truly wished for, as she wishes to meet Shiro one last time. Merlin sees her turmoil and proposes an idea that would have the two of them reunite for one last time. This wouldn't be easy, as the chances of it happening would basically be like a wish upon the stars, as it would require two miracles. Saber must wait endlessly, and Shiro must pursue endlessly. And so a long time passes as Merlin works his magic to have these two lovers finally reunite. Shiro would continue his long journey of walking across many lands, as he kept walking even after his death in pursuit of the golden star that he sought for all his life. He has seen and experienced many things in his long life, but he could never replicate the beauty of meeting Saber for the first time. His endless pursuit pays off as he walks into an ephemeral land unlike any he has ever come across. Saber's long wait and desire to meet him one last time also pays off, as the continuation of the dream is realized, as they both feel as if they've gone back in time to the night of their parting. They run across the golden lands of Avalon and finally see each other again. They embrace as they will never be separated again. So the story of these star-crossed lovers ends in their reunion after a long wait. They both get the happy ending that they deserve after a life filled with pain and misery. Thank you for watching the video. This recap obviously isn't the best way to experience her story, but I did want to do this for people that didn't have time to read the visual novel or see the anime. I still think you should experience Fate Stay Night, as the best way to experience the story would be to read the visual novel, which is available on Steam and the Nintendo Switch. You can also see the Unlimited Blade Works anime by Ufotable, and then the older Fate Stay Night anime Fate Route adaptation by Studio Dean. If you have no desire to read the visual novel, then you can see the Heaven's Seal movies to complete the Fate Stay Night trilogy. I wouldn't recommend that you experience the story of Heaven's Feel for the first time through the movies, as I believe they don't adapt the visual novel as well as they should have. If you want to find out the reasons why, you can click the link to the video in the description. You can also click the annotation to it now. Anyways, if you'd like to see more content like this, then please subscribe, as I'll hopefully release a video that recaps Archer's story in Fate Stay Night. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, as it really does help me out. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.